All right, so today was another day at Pound Town, and it was a day in which the pound was hard. And it started from the very beginning, and it just continued to get worse and worse all day until I walked into an office and realized that someone had walked into this room, ripped a computer off the wall, and taken it home. And when I talked to the people that were responsible for this room, I said, people are getting hungry and they're getting desperate. This is an act of desperation. That piece of equipment has almost no value to the average person. At most, they would get 50 bucks out of it, and it would be questionable because you can't do anything with these things. They're locked to the nth degree and they're old. So when people do these things, and I used to see it at the university where I went to school for so many years, it was commonplace to walk by a computer in one of the libraries and see that someone had taken the time to take the computer completely apart because they have them locked to the desk or to the wall. And what they would do is they would take the guts out of the computer and steal the inside of the computer and just leave the shell there. And I thought to myself, you know what? If you really have that much ingenuity to do this and then go out and put it back together and make a couple bucks, right? Because it was probably those mess addicts that would do something like this. Because when I worked at Walmart, the one thing that got stolen by those same people all the time was bike parts. Because if you're one of those people, your main form of transportation is probably going to be a BMX bike. They love BMX bikes because they're the simplest, cheapest possible transportation. They're simple, they're reliable, and for some reason, they like even grown men riding around on 20-inch tires. But with that said, today's video was inspired by someone who left a comment, and I thought it was hilarious because it's something that I talk about on this channel all the time. How the calculation of life on what we should get paid is simple. For most of the proletariat, we're not overly concerned with luxury, vacations, or high wages. We know that's impossible. You're not making $250,000 a year. You're not living comfortably. And for the most part, most people will never live comfortably. We're all going to slave away for the rest of our lives for what the lowest amount of money that they can possibly pay us. So in this comment, this guy left, it's like, yes, I think that they don't take into consideration what the cost of living is. The cost of living is replaced by how do we keep the domesticated human livestock alive for one more day to exploit them enough so that Evil Corp can make record profits every year. That's really what it comes down to. So let's get right into my opening monologue generated by the delightful ChatGPT. You ever get that feeling like someone ran the numbers on your entire existence and decided you were only worth about $9.75 an hour? Like, not your dreams, not your education, not your heart, just your bones, your time, your ability to stand upright and follow orders. I'm 25. I'm exhausted. I'm not lazy. I'm functionally poor. And the only reason I'm alive right now is because somewhere, someone decided that my labor was just worth keeping around. That's why when people who do measly jobs are always concerned about automation and taking away all the low level jobs. Because the reason why we have so many people who are either homeless or living in the bottom percentages, why we have the 99%, is so that we have hands that do labor. And the last thing that you want to do as an evil corporation is have workers that are paid well enough so that they could start their own companies and directly compete with your evil corp. That's why there's no competitor to Amazon or Google or Walmart or Microsoft. The world has two operating systems, and for all of those people who are going to tell me about the great things about Linux, sure, Linux works great in a server room. Day to day use of Linux, day to day use of Apple computers in the modern workplace doesn't work. You should see the look on my boss's face every time he sees an Apple product. It's not only cringe, it's like cringe, puke, and then poke his finger in his mouth and say, I don't want this here. But we don't have a choice. Sometimes you have to do things at work that you don't like assume the position at 8 a.m. We don't like it, but we don't. Do you have a choice? Either you're going to work here or you're going to work there, but you have to work because you, my friend, are a slave. And if you want to eat every day, you better sell something every day because if you're not on a street corner, you're in Pound Town. Either way, you're not getting out of Pound Town. What it is to be humans on this slave planet. All right, talking point number one. I call it the slave calculator. And I swear to God, it's real. It's not on your phone, it's not some app. It's the invisible formula corporations use to figure out how little they can pay you without letting you actually bite it. They factor in rent, transportation, the calories you need to keep working. Then they ask, how many hours do we need to buy her life for? That's your wage. That's your prison sentence. And if you ever ask for more, the system punishes you. It's not about helping you, it's about taming you. Wow. I swear to God, I have nothing to do with writing these scripts. I insert the comment into ChatGPT. I ask it to write the script. It writes the script. And this is pretty juicy. Oh my God. I remember this channel is just a reaction channel. Nothing about this channel is written by me. It is literally comment ChatGPT and me reading it. So this is even dark for me. For years and years and years, I wrote thousands of these scripts for myself. And I am nowhere near as dark or morbid as ChatGPT seems to be on this particular topic. All right, let's scroll down. Talking point number two. I work 40 hours a week and I still go to bed hungry sometimes. I've skipped meals to pay for gas, skipped days off to afford tampons. Tampons. ChatGPT seems to be obsessed with tampons. I have no idea why it is. I mean, I bought the first tampons of my life this past Saturday for a person who doesn't have a job. Now it seems to think that I'm using tampons, that it's that time of the month for me every day of the month. Tell me how this is normal. Tell me why my coworker with a kid cries in the break room but still shows up every shift. Tell me why minimum wage doesn't even cover minimum life. And they say we're entitled for wanting more. Nah, I'm tired of being grateful for breadcrumbs when I'm the one baking the damn loaf of bread. Oh man, again, that's pretty dark. I always use the analogy when I'm reacting to these videos of every Friday they bring out a bucket of fish heads. And this is what you're worth to the corporation. They bring out your 5 pound bucket of fish heads. And this has to last you between this paycheck and the next paycheck. They don't care whether or not you can buy gas with it, you can pay your rent, whether you can buy a good night with Susie Rottencrotch. This is your bucket of fish heads. That's how much buying power the McPaycheck has these days. Your bucket of fish heads has arrived, sir, via U.S. Postal Service. And by the time it gets to you, those fish heads are smelling a little fishier than you and I would both like. Because the bucket of fish heads isn't worth the squeeze, right? It's just definitely the paycheck is symbolic these days. And that's why most of you in the comment section for my last video are going to say, but Millennial Steam, my employer pays me for a fair day's work. And then I would ask that person, a fair day's work, right? Where do you live? Let me see what car you drive. What brand are your clothes? Those shoes look like they're about 5 years old. This Sunday, when I go visit Jill, the first thing I do is I look at her shoes. And the first thing she does is she blushes because she knows how old they look. It wouldn't surprise me if this Sunday, when I saw her, if she had tried to clean them up. Because the last time I saw her and I looked at her shoes and they were filthy white shoes that look like she's had them since she was in I don't know, in the 12th grade. And I've asked her many times, it's like, you need new shoes. And she's just like, I know, but I don't have money. And I'm like, and then she'll use every excuse in the book as to why she can't get new shoes. It's not just about the money. She doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to believe that it's the money. But when you're living with four roommates and you're living with four roommates in an apartment, obviously money is an issue. But it goes to show, I mean, she works 6 days a week. She often works 12 hours a day, but her wages are just too low. Look at look at her standard of living. 40 to 60 hours a week. She can't afford a pair of shoes. She can't afford a decent car. She told me what she was driving the last time I was there. And the only reason she's driving that car is because she got into a wreck and the insurance money was just enough to buy her Promobile. And I was like, how do you live like this? And she's like, you got to make do. That's what every pro out there will tell you. You've got to make do. If this is all the money that you can make while you're working, if this $20 is an hour is all you can make, you're gonna have to stretch that $20 because both you and I say this all the time, know that $20 in our current society is monopoly money. It's not taking you places. The modern day paycheck is designed to hurt you in every aspect of your life. You think the landlord cares that you're going to walk over to the leasing office and pay with fish heads? He's going to look at you and say what every person tells a person making $20 an hour. Get a better job. And having heard that statement for 20 years myself, even even in today's society, I have people all the time who tell me to get a better job. Today, while I was stressed out of my mind at work, because as someone also left in the comments, it used to be you could do one job for one wage. Then they made it 2 jobs, 3 jobs, 4 jobs, and 5 jobs. At one point today, I think I was running around the entire office doing one thing after another, after another, after another. And then I was walking with the office president this morning because he had another job for me. And he says, Millennial Steam, the office needs a new air conditioner. And I'm like, what are you expecting me to install that too? You want me to put the air conditioner on my back and crawl up there and install it? He's like, I just don't have the money for an air conditioner. And I'm like, it's 115 degrees outside. The last time they needed that particular part of the office building, they had people sitting in there sweating like they were outside. You can't do that. Anyhow, moving on to talking point number 3. People keep saying slavery ended. No, baby. It just changed clothes. Now it's wage slips, rental agreements, debt. Now they don't house you. They let you pay for your own prison cell. They don't beat you. They let you burn out. Do it slowly. They don't chain you. They make you feel guilty for resting. You work, you sleep, you repeat. And if you ask why it feels like you're dying, they tell you to smile more. Oh my God. I've created 670 of these videos on the new account, and that's the funniest thing. I have read that ChatGPT has written, and I'm not prompting it to be cynical. I'm not prompting it to do anything else other than to write a script, and that's what it wrote. They tell you to smile more. God. Okay. So this is an observation that one of my besties at work does. So her job is to do the training programs, right? They go through a gazillion people at this evil corp. And her job every week is to provide all the information and training you could ever need to do one particular job. Well, today, for the first time ever, along with the return to work mandate that every corporation in America is trying to get the proletariat to come back. And one of my other work acquaintances told me that her husband has been trying to find a remote job for months now, and every one of them wants you in the office at least the minimum 3 days. But with that said, so my other bestie wrote me today, and she said, she sent me a picture with her cell phone, right? And she says, why do these people look like this? This is the first time she's ever conducted a class while every single person in that room had to have their camera on. And the first thing she said when she saw those people for the very first time, and she's worked for Evil Corp for, I'm going to say 8 to 10 years, doing the exact same job. She said, Millennial Steam, why do they look so sad? And I'm like, you know what? That's what the animals at the zoo look like when you're looking into their enclosures and they can't leave. And she's like, well, then why are they here? She asked. And I'm like, do you really want to know the answer to that question? And the question had a very simple answer. Those people need to eat. That's why they look like that. And I mean, the expression on their faces will, it kind of just like made you like almost, you were taken aback by it. Because these people were sitting at home and this is how they looked at home. Can you imagine once you have to bring them into the office? There was one guy in the training while the person conducting the training. So there was like 6 cameras, right, including the person that was actually conducting the training. So they were kind of like in 3 rows. There was 2 rows of 3, and then the person doing the training while she was watching it. And a couple of the people in those cameras were actually looking not into the camera, but they had are turning their heads and looking straight up at the ceiling. And I'm like, how are you seeing what you're being taught if you're looking at the ceiling? And it wasn't 1 or 2. I think it was 2 or 3 of them. Like I remember distinctly the guy at the bottom, he's just staring. He's got his head craned up and he's staring at the ceiling. Like what they're like there's something happening there that's more important than what's happening on the screen. And I'm like, holy crap. So this is what these people look like. Or can you imagine what they would look like if they didn't know that they were being watched? This is what they're doing when they're being watched. Can you imagine there's probably people sitting at home, like sitting there scratching their leg or poking their ear. Or I just can't imagine what these people would be doing if they didn't know that another human being was watching them. And everyone in that room was watching each other. It was very eerie. It reminded me of the telescreen from 1984, where Big Brother watches you. What you're doing on the other side of that screen, well, hopefully Winston knew that Big Brother was into that. But it was hilarious. And I just got a still picture from her. And she was shocked. Like, look at these people. So, all right. I have two things for closing out of this video. I have one that's called closing, and I have one that's outro. I think I looked at the outro one and it was just too mushy for me. So we're going to do the closing. So burn it. Burn the calculator in your mind that says you're only worth what you can produce. You're not a battery. You're not a barcode. You're a human being. And no spreadsheet will ever measure your worth. If you're broke right now, it's not because you're broken. It's because the system needs you poor, obedient, exhausted, and scared enough to say yes to anything. But we don't have to stay scared, and we don't have to stay silent. I love how ChatGPT thinks that the proletariat will just suddenly rise up, that the no king protest will turn into, hey, by the way, we're still human and we don't want to eat ramen every day or throw two fistful of dirt into our mouths. In fact, this morning I was talking to one of the guys that works in another state, and I said to him, it's like, you know what? I've never met a normal person that works in this industry. And I said, these industries are full of weirdos. And he's like, yep. Every morning before I come to work, I eat my weirdios when I come to work. And I started laughing hysteriously. Weirdios. The choice of cereal for those that work in the tech field. Never leave home without your weirdios. Because this industry attracts the strange of the strange. You're never going to meet someone that works in this area that has even the slightest bit of normal in them. As I've said in many videos, you have to be on the spectrum in order to work here. Because any normal person would look around, talk, say one sentence to a person, then run away as fast as they could. Because that's what you do when you meet a bunch of weirdos. Personal hygiene is not the best. They're just strange. I remember when I worked at Insight, when I was working at that call center, you could walk up and down the aisles, and everywhere you went in that area, there's like 100 cubicles. This is a giant call center, right? Every aisle had a distinct odor of fish, feet, alcohol, substances, or BO, or all of it mixed into clouds that would be dispersing all day in that area. And my supervisor was no exception to this. He would sit there as a giant red-haired fat guy, and he would just be sweating. And he had a fan on his desk, and he'd just be sitting there like a 300-pound guy sweating. And every once in a while, I'd look over and I'd see him putting on his deodorant again and again throughout the day. That's the kind of funk that comes with this field. And it's universal, especially in the summer in Arizona.